Well, as markets in the Asia-Pacific region navigate a mix of business activity data and corporate updates, varied performances were seen across key indices. Well, this comes against the backdrop of US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's comments on inflation and significant corporate maneuvers, such as Alibaba's massive share repurchase. Investors globally are closely watching these developments to gauge economic health and future market movements. Well, Japan's Nikkei rose 0.7%, while the Topix remained flat. South Korea's Kospi increased by 0.3%, and the Kosdaq, Australia's S&P 200 and Hong Kong's Hang Seng are all green. Japan's composite PMI fell to 49.4 points in June, indicating a slowdown. China's services PMI registered at 51.2 in June, showing continued expansion. Meanwhile, Wall Street experienced gains, with the S&P 500 and Nasdaq hitting record highs. The Dow Jones also inched high, climbing by 0.41%. Tesla leads the corporate sector with a whopping 10.2% gain. E-commerce giant Amazon also contributed to the sector's gain, rising by 1.4%. Alibaba repurchased 613 million shares, totaling $5.8 billion. This repurchase positively influenced investor sentiment. Consequently, Alibaba's stock increased by 1.7%. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Naeem Aslam, Zay's Capital Markets Chief Investment Officer. He joins us now from London. So how do the recent records in US markets influence the outlook for Asia-Pacific markets?
Sure, thanks for having me. Look, when we are speaking of the US market, we had a stellar first half of the year. We had a stellar 2 quarters back to back. And of course, the recent month of June performance wasn't that subdued as well. But when you look at the Asian markets, especially the stocks, and something that you mentioned earlier in relation to Alibaba, these particular stocks haven't performed that well in relative perspective when we compare them to the tech giants or anything comparison such as Amazon over the United States. So I think investors are looking at Asia, at the Asian stocks, as an opportunity for them, where there is still massive room left for some of these stocks. They haven't even made all-time high. In comparison to the United States, we've seen several all-time highs for these particular stocks, and of course for the indices as well. So over in Asia, stocks like Alibaba, they are still very much undervalued, and there's a massive room left for maneuver or for an upside.
So how are investors interpreting the recent decline, say, in Japan's PMI? And what could this mean for, say, the broader economy?
Well, look, I think you've also mentioned the numbers out from China, which is very encouraging. And I think that is what matters the most when it comes to Asia. But of course, Japan is also an important part of that, especially with the recent decline that we are experiencing in the Japanese yen against the dollar, which is sitting nearly at a 30-year low. So anything below 50 represents a contraction. So the number, the number which came in at 49.4, that is certainly not a very optimistic number for the BOJ or even for the economy or even for the investor sentiment as well.